Welcome back to Tapped In with Tony. I am your host, Tony Bogan. Tonight, joining me is Eastlake North grad, current Cleveland Heights assistant coach, and podcaster himself of Coach's Approach and the Abraham Drinking podcast, George Gresko. George, thank you for joining me tonight.
No, Tony, thank you for asking me to come on. I appreciate it, and gonna have a little fun here tonight.
Absolutely, man. Let's start with where are you from? Where are you from originally? I think I probably
So
may
I'm
always.
born I'm born and raised from Eastlake, Ohio. I lived there nearly my whole life until I moved here. I live in Menor now. So I didn't move too far away. I'm still a local boy. Born and raised Eastlake. Sorry, my dog's trying to get some TV time. um, okay, come on, get out of here. But yeah, I'm from Eastlake, Ohio, born and raised. My mom graduated from Eastlake North. My two older brothers graduated from North. My sister graduated from North. So that is where I'm from. And now I'm living in Menor, Ohio. Like I said, not too far away from Eastlake. So
So you've had that North blood from North blood through your family.
yeah, and my dad actually went to Willoughby South, so there was a little rivalry there growing up. So yeah, it's been fun.
Gotcha, gotcha. And tell us a little bit about your high school football career. I remember having seen highlights of you just slinging the ball all across the field.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to be a 4-year varsity starter. It was just, I walked into the right scenario at the right time. And it was a head coaching change my freshman year, or actually the year before I was a freshman. I was in eighth grade as a ball boy at the time when there was a head coaching change midway through the season. And then George Burek became the head football coach. And he kind of was like, we got to switch something up. We got to, start winning some football games at North. And like I said, right scenario, right time. I, took over the starting job as a freshman, and we implemented the spread offense for the first time in Eastlake North history, and we had some really good receivers that made my job a lot easier. But yeah, we went from throwing the ball 10 times a game to throwing the ball like close to 40, 50, 60 times at some point, some games. And, like I said, I was the right man for the job at the time and came in as a freshman and started the next 4 years. So it was a fun time.
And how was it like experiencing the North South rivalry? Because I know Wilby South
Yeah,
and North are huge rivals.
absolutely. And it's funny, like I grew up in, all Eastlake North though. My dad went to, Willoughby South. My mom was a Ranger. My whole family graduated from North. So like I grew up with that. I bled orange and black. And I still do. I have an Eastlake North sign here behind me actually. And but yeah, playing in that game, I played against Cream Hunt. So like it was tough to win games. And I unfortunately I did not ever beat Willoughby South because they had some really good players through that, through that span. But yeah, the Eastlake North Willoughby South, right? It's a real thing. I don't know how big it is now because, things are changing. You're not allowed to say certain things. And, I grew up in a time where, my brothers graduated from North in 98. So there was a lot of stuff going on during those times. And, yeah, the rivalry was real. I still hate the color, that powder blue. I still hate it. And it's always good. I don't even buy powder blue still to this day because I don't like it.
Right. And how was it like playing against the other Western Reserve conference schools? You had Chardon, who
Yeah.
is definitely taken off as a power.
Yeah.
Madison had their successes every now and then.
Absolutely. I mean, the WRC conference, it's a legit conference. It's a battle each and every week. And, I was fortunate enough to see the conference change to the WRC because we were originally in the PAC at the time, Premier Athletic Conference, my freshman and sophomore year, I believe. And then I think it switched to WRC my junior, senior year. But yeah, it was a battle each and every week. We had at that time there was, Chardon, Madison, Riverside, Willoughby South, there's a few others I'm probably missing. But yeah, it was a battle each and every week, and you knew you had to be ready to play and had a great game plan because you were going up against great coaching staffs. You're going up against premier talent every week, so you had to be ready to play and know it. Especially me as a quarterback, I knew pre-snap where I needed to go with the ball before I actually knew where I was going. So it was just that kind of being prepared weekly.
So in a way, you were kind of a relic of the past, and that was just like over a decade ago. You don't really see a
Yeah.
ton of pocket passers in high school anymore.
Yeah, no, and you know, I didn't like running, but I knew I could run a little bit if I needed to. And if I did need to run, it was towards the sideline and out of bounds.
Instead of
Yeah,
trying
no.
to pick up a first down, try to gain 10, 20 yards.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, like I still mess with a few players. I was a leading rusher one year, my sophomore year, with like 397 yards. We didn't run the ball. We had 5 wide receivers and we just slung the football around. So I do joke at times that my slow butt was a leading rusher.
So you guys had that air raid offense going, that Hal
Yeah,
Mumme air raid, Texas Tech type offense, throwing 400, 500, and I'm pretty
yeah,
sure 600 yards at one point.
yeah, and it was fun because at that time, like I said, we had a brand new head coach in George Gresko, and then also my sophomore year when we implemented that spread offense, we brought in a coach by the name of Kari Hicks, which I'm sure you've heard that name.
Yes.
He's the offense coordinator now at Cleveland Heights. But he was my offensive coordinator that George Burek brought in. So that's my connection to, Coach Hicks and the Cleveland Heights program as well. And yeah, he brought the spread offense with him. And I was so fortunate enough to meet him and play for him and him opening up the offense for me.
That's amazing. Did you play
Yeah.
any other sports at Eastlake North?
I did not. I did not. I used to wrestle up until, I started losing interest in it because I was throwing all these touchdowns. So, I kind of lost interest and I just kind of went the one sport route. I used to tell our basketball coach at the time, I said, "Hey, if you need a guy to come in and foul someone, let me know. I'll come foul somebody." But no, I'm not. I wasn't much of a basketball player. I didn't like running, like we just said, so I didn't run track. So, I just kind of focused on throwing the football in the off season.
Got it. And how was the recruiting, especially back in the day, early
Yeah.
2010s? I'm pretty sure you got quite a few looks from a lot of schools with your stats.
Yeah. Yeah, so the recruiting process is it's a big animal. It really is. Like it's a different world. But at that time, there wasn't so Huddle just came out like when I was graduating. So like my senior year, Huddle was a big thing, but no one really knew how to use it until, a few years later. So the highlight tapes were still on, DVDs. So you would have to, mail them out and this and that. And I'm like, I don't know if they got them or not. Now it's a click of the button of Huddle sending, a link here and there. It makes it super simple. Even like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you can make these mini clips, post it right to Twitter now, and everyone can see them. We didn't have that. We had, DVDs. But yeah,
Or
I ended up going to John Carroll,
mm,
and I was there for a semester. I actually had at the end of my senior year, I had a shoulder surgery on my
mm,
throwing arm. And then I get to John Carroll. The head coach at the time was Tom Arth, which was at Akron as a head coach. And now I believe he's the quarterbacks coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so he was my quarterbacks coach and head coach at the time. He's like, George, I think you're throwing funny. You should just go get checked out. So I went to get checked out. The athletic trainer's like, something's wrong here, something. So I went to go get checked again. I ended up having another shoulder surgery. So this is now my third shoulder surgery in a matter of 2 years. So now I have a decision I have to make. Am I gonna, try to play any longer? Am I gonna try to? What am I doing? So I ended up. I got the surgery again, and I'm like, at that point, I'm like, I don't know if I'm coming back. And then, I think I mentioned this to you. I had tragedy kind of strike my family. My brother Jason was killed in the line of duty. He was a Willoughby police officer and a Cleveland Clinic police officer. So he was killed in the line of duty while I was at John Carroll.
mm.
I'm coming off shoulder surgery. I'm kind of bummed out. My freshman year at John Carroll. So now I'm like, I think I'm going to call the quits of football, which I did. I ended up leaving John Carroll. My family was kind of, you know, we was going through some stuff. So I left John Carroll at that time, and it just wasn't for me at that time. And it was a decision, a tough decision. So I left John Carroll, and not too long after, I started coaching. My head coach was like, George, come coach at the middle school. So my first year, I started coaching back at my middle school that I went to, which was Willock Middle, and that's kind of the start I got in coaching.
So how was it transitioning from playing to coaching in a matter of, I believe, maybe 2 or so years? Because I know
Yeah,
you had the 3 surgeries, you had
yeah,
your brother unfortunately lose his life in the line of duty.
yeah. So I knew I wanted to be around the game, and I know I needed to be around the game at that time because I was going through a tough time in my life. So I needed to be around, the coaches that, shaped me in who I am. So I was like, we got to coach. Why not? And then, so the transition was kind of fun because my first year I went back to my old middle school. I'm familiar with them. And I actually coached with the coach that coached me in middle school. So it was a lot of fun, coaching with him, really getting to know him even more, as more of like a colleague than a coach of mine. But yeah, no, it was a blast. And I know I need to be around the game of football. It, you know, once you stop playing, it's not gone. It's still there, and you still have that drive and itch, whether you're playing or coaching. So yeah, I got into coaching at that time.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in their early mid 20s and even late 20s still coaching. They go
Yeah,
immediately from playing in college, or maybe they, in your case, get injured in college and they go right to coaching.
yeah,
So they're still around the game, even if their playing days are over. They're
yep.
coaching.
And
Yeah,
I think that first year coaching, I was 20 years old when I first got that first head coach or that first coaching job as a middle school coach.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, jumped
And,
right into it.
and then it looks like you coached at Kenston. So tell me
Yeah,
about that. Was under, I believe you were under Pitch.
yeah, yeah. So 2013 is when I coached at my old middle school, and it's actually a really funny story. So I was actually one of my good friends, Tim Gladowski, got hired at Newberry at the time. And he's like, George, why don't you come coach high school football with me at Newberry? Small school, it won't be, too tough because it's a lot smaller school. So I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll come check it out. Well, I'm going on my way to Newberry to sign my coaching contract at Newberry. Jeff Grubich calls me while I'm headed to Newberry. He's like, George, we have this quarterback's job opening, middle school job possibly opening. Come up here, interview. So I'm driving right down Auburn Road, right past Newberry, and I go right to Kenston. And that day I ended up signing the contract at Kenston High School instead of Newberry. And I became their, I started out at the middle school level, and then I worked my way up to become the quarterback's coach there. And I was there from 2014 to 2018 was my last football season, and we won the state title in 2018.
Talk about
So
run.
it was a heck of a journey. It was cool because I got to see the kids that from middle school work their tails off, get to the point where I think we're going to win a state championship. And that was the one thing that they had on their list. We're going to win the state title. And they were a great group of kids. All those Kenston guys, all those coaches worked their tails off. I'm so lucky to be a part of that and really learn from all those coaches, especially Grubich. They do a great job over there. Steve Taringo is the defense coordinator. All those guys are great. So I know I was, like I said, I was super fortunate to be a part of a great staff and to learn a lot at the same time.
Oh yeah, and the standard is kept today as Kenston
Hmm.
is a consistent playoff contender. And
Yeah.
2016, you go from 2-8 in 2016,
Yeah.
8-2, barely missing out on a playoff berth at 17. And
And you know what's scary?
yeah,
What's scary is that 2017 team. If we get in at 8-2, we might go back to back state titles
mm,
because that we rattled off I think 6 straight wins and to go 8-2 that year. So it
and
was pretty wild. It was yeah. If we would have got in 2017, it would have been scary.
I think you guys had a close loss to Brush that year.
Yeah. Yes. They had that quarterback that Godwin Joe or
Hmm.
something like that. I think he was close to being Mr. Football or Mr. Ohio. And yeah, he was a stud quarterback. And we lost in the last play of the game.
Wow.
Yep. Yep.
Because I know you experienced, well, going from one WRC school to another, you could basically you guys were against Brush,
Yep.
Mayfield, I forgot to mention,
Yeah, Mayfield as
Grand
well. Yeah.
Falls in the Battle of 422.
And that was the two losses that year. We lost the Brush, and then we had to go to Mayfield on a Thursday night. It was just a weird vibe. We had a few players out due to illness, and we go into Mayfield. It just wasn't. It was just one of those weird trap games,
Mm,
and they beat us up. We didn't
mm,
have an answer, and they just beat us bad.
gotcha.
You win some, you lose some.
How's it like coaching against being coaching against North with the school you graduated from being in that same conference?
Yeah, it was kind of weird, but when we actually got there, when we would play North, pretty much my old staff was gone at that time when we started playing North. So it wasn't as weird like coaching against, my old coaches because not a whole lot of them were there anymore. Um, but it was fun kicking their butt. It was fun.
Yeah, because I know
Yeah.
Region 9 still one of the toughest regions in
Yeah.
the state of Ohio. You got Canfield up close
Oh
to
yeah.
me. You got Kenston. You got
Yeah.
VSJ this year. The rise of CVCA.
Yeah.
Chardon, as
E-
always.
Especially in
Streetsboro was
yeah.
making a run a little
In
bit.
Can yeah. And
Yeah.
Canfield just hired a brand new coach, so you
Hmm.
never know what they're going to turn into. They're tough every year. VASJ's back to VASJ finally, which is good to see. Brand new stadium over there, which is incredible.
Yep.
So I don't know if I would want to play a playoff game over there at VASJ because right on the water there it'd be cold. It would be cold.
And then after you left Kenston, then where'd you go? Where's your next stop?
Yeah. So after Kenston, this is kind of the rocky part of my coaching career, and it's an interesting part because after we win the state title in 2018, really at the end of 2017, I was looking for head coaching jobs. I was a finalist at West Geauga at the end of 2017, which I didn't end up getting, which is fine. There's a few other jobs that I was, applying for. Well, at the end of 2018, I saw Middlefield Cardinal. I'm like, okay, maybe we'll check it out. There's been a head coach that was there for 19 seasons prior to me getting there, which was his name was Eric Cardinal. So he was there, and I'm like, okay, this guy's been there for 19 seasons. Must be a pretty good job. So I start researching it more, and I'm hearing they're getting a brand new stadium, new track, all these new things are coming. So it was very intriguing. So I ended up applying for the job. A month later, I'm named the head football coach at Cardinal, and that happened in late March. I was there for 2 seasons, and excuse me, some stuff went down, and I kind of went over this with you before. I was accused of, so I was, I'll give you a quick backstory real quick. It's called the Learning Center Supervisor at the time,
Hmm.
which is they kind of created a position. Year one, I'm working with um, kids that they need more attention one-on-one rather than being in a classroom setting. So I would kind of sit with them, work with them outside of the classroom. And so that was my job. And then COVID hit. My job kind of switched again during that time. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, January of 2020, I get accused of changing students' grades. And like I said, I never changed anyone's grades. I've never done anything like that. And I eventually, there was a big police thing, and it was a big ordeal. And I ended up losing the job that I had at Cardinal, coaching job and everything. So
Hmm.
I was there for 2 seasons, 2019, 2020 through COVID, and that 2020 year for every coach that coached through that, they understand how hard that was. And then on top of it, I had all this other stuff going on as well. So it
So
was it was definitely an interesting scenario. And my heart goes out to every coach that coached during COVID because it was definitely an experience.
And how was that like in the 2 years when you coached at Cardinal? How was that like as you had the one normal year and
Yeah,
then you had the other year where you don't know if one kid gets COVID, then the program gets shut
yeah,
down for 2 weeks.
yeah. So the first year, everything pretty much, other than the wins, everything was pretty perfect actually. I got a lot of stuff under control. You know, jerseys, helmets, equipment. I got all that stuff under control. Um, New helmet decals for the kids. Always get stuff excited. You know, I laid out the blueprint, if you will, for the program of what my expectations are going into year two. We were ready. We were rocking and rolling, and then COVID hits. I think late February or early March.
Early March.
Oh man, COVID hits. Boom. I remember our last day in the weight room. We were kind of joking because we didn't know what was going on. So I picked up a squirt bottle, you know, like a cleaning supply squirt bottle. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, COVID, get out of the way. But we didn't know what it was at that time. So, like, that was our last day in the weight room. And then over the weekend, actually, that Friday we were supposed to have a clap out for one of the wrestlers that were going down to States.
Mm.
Well, it got canceled. So, like, it was, it was, it was, it was definitely a time to be alive.
Yeah, that and I imagine and in your short time, I believe Cardinals' rival was Berkshire. So
Yeah.
tell us about a little bit of that if you know about that.
Yeah, so I definitely got to learn the rivalry because I wasn't very familiar with it beforehand. And in the COVID year, because you kind of got to select and pick and choose kind of who you got to play after the playoff was week 6 or whatever. So we had open weeks open. So we played Burton week 1. We had them on the ropes. We ended up losing the game late in the game. Well, we got to play them again like week 10 that year. We lost again. The second one was horrible. We were, but it's a great rivalry, and it's fun because it's like reminds you of Willoughby South, Eastlake North. You take one road from here to there, you're right. You're in the other person's backyard, so
Yep.
it's definitely a cool crosstown rivalry. It's
Yeah.
fun for the kids, especially you like. I played against Cream Hunt. I knew Cream Hunt. You know, like we played against each other growing up all the time. Those kids at Burton and Cardinal, they know each other. They're like, we can't lose to them.
Mm,
And that game made or break the season. It was awesome.
gotcha. And you guys, I believe, played against Beechwood that year. You guys
Yeah,
played against LeBray in the
yeah,
playoffs.
yeah. And we had a heck of a game against LeBray. We excuse me. Like I said, I'm battling a little sickness, little cough, but yeah, we played LeBray in the playoffs. They went up 14 points early. We're like, oh man, this ain't good. We drove down right before halftime, scored. It's 14-7. We're like, let's roll. We're rolling now. Well, we kick off. They return the kickoff 21-7. We're like, crap. Well, we score again right before halftime. And then it's 21-14 going into halftime. We're like, we got ourselves a ball game.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't match them score for score because we were eat the clock team, run the ball, throw it when we need to, and we couldn't go score for score with them, and it was a great game. But yeah, we played some Beechwood too. I mean, Damian Creel was the head coach at Beechwood at that time. They ended up going 8-2 that year. Had a good playoff game with Kirtland. Um, yeah, I mean, we played some real good teams that year.
Yeah. Looks like you played Kirtland the year before
Oh,
too.
yeah, Kirtland's its own monster. It's
Oh yeah.
not fun going into Kirtland. It's not because then you have that long bus ride home. I'd rather play Kirtland at home any day of the week.
And then after all the stuff shook down with Cardinal, where did you end up afterwards?
Yeah, so actually during when everything was going down at Cardinal, one of the first phone calls, and it's still one of the most meaningful phone calls that I've ever received. Max Stevens called me, and me and Max Stevens didn't have really much of a relationship beforehand. He calls me and he goes, George, Kari Hicks is over here with me. I know he's coached you, and he speaks highly of you. He goes, whatever happens at Cardinal, you have a spot with us over here at Cleveland Heights.
Mm.
And that's me not even knowing the man at that time. Few run-ins here and there, but nothing major. So I'm like, okay, thank you, coach. I appreciate the call. And he goes, just so you know, we're in your corner. At that time, that means a lot coming from a guy like Max Stevens.
Oh yeah.
And I will say this, coaching for Coach Mac, he's one of the most genuine people I've ever coached alongside of. He loves the sport. He loves the kids, everything. It was just a whole lot of fun coaching with him.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so he called me during that time, and a few months later, I'm at Cleveland Heights.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And they're doing a lot of great stuff over there. Max
yeah,
Stevens has been coach for years.
yes,
Kahari Hicks has the Build the Bridge program that
yeah,
started in 2020.
yeah,
And one year, Max said to me in an interview that he had sent 26 kids to college to play football one year.
yeah. And they have gotten a lot of scholarship money for those kids, and it's really what these kids have put into the program over the 4 years that they've been there in the weight room, doing all the speed workouts with Coach Mack over at the Euclid Sports Plant. It's really a contestant and a statement to those kids getting to that level, they earned it at that point. They've earned that money, earned those scholarships. I think they're up to like 180 kids up to going like scholarship kids, scholarship athletes up in college now. I think
Oh,
it's up over 180.
oh yeah, and that number's gonna go well over 200.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And after that, are you still planning on coaching in the future? Are you still coaching now?
So as of right now, I stepped away from coaching at Cleveland Heights. So I'm kind of just, I help Coach Mack. We do Coach Mack has a football training down in Eastlake at Eastlake Forest every Sunday. So I've been helping out with that. And I've just been kind of kicking back, relaxing this past year. It's this first time that I didn't coach this past season. And
Wow.
yeah, it was first time that I kind of just went watched football games and relaxed, and it was kind of weird, when you're part of football since the age of 6 and you don't have football.
Yeah,
But no, it was relaxing, and yeah, I'm just kind of hanging out, having a little fun, enjoying life.
that's really awesome. And you're still, well, I graduated in 2010 from Shaker Heights, so you're
Okay.
younger than me, so still got a lot of years ahead of you.
Oh yeah, I'm starting to bald a little bit now though. I'm hanging on to the last little bit of hair.
Well, and I heard that you're a podcaster as well. So tell me
Yeah.
about your podcasts.
So yeah, so I when I first started podcasting, I did a podcast called The Coach's Approach, where I was interviewing. It started with local coaches, so I had Steve Trevisano, former coach at Mentor, on. I've had Damian Creel on, Kahari Hicks. I've had Max Stevens, to name a few. There's a few others. And then so I started with that podcast to start, to kind of, get my feet wet, what I needed to do. And then a few buddies of mine where they're like, hey, let's start a podcast. So we started, this drinking podcast, it's called the Abraham Drinking Podcast,
Mm,
where we just kind of talk about, random, like if we were having a show this Monday, we would talk about the bridge that fell in Baltimore,
mm,
just anything that's relevant in the news that week we would talk about. And then most recently, we just combined with another podcast, and now it's called Tanked Telecasts. So
mm,
we're going to be doing stuff, all around. We're doing a show this coming Monday for Dingus Day, the day after Easter, in downtown Willoughby at Frank and Tony's. So
mm.
we're gonna have a little fun with that. So yeah, we're doing a lot of crazy stuff, but it's entertaining. You get to meet a lot of people, and it's been fun.
Wow. So even though you're not coaching football for the time being, you're still keeping busy.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta keep busy. You can't become a potato. You become a potato, you get eaten.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And did you fill out any March Madness brackets? I've got the
I
tournament
did. I
on.
did. I have my phone right here. I'll pull it up real quick. I have Gonzaga winning the whole thing.
Oh wow. I've got
I believe it comes down to Gonzaga and here. Let me pull it up so I have it right here in front of me. Mm-mm-mm.
got Purdue winning one. I think I have Arizona winning a couple. So the
So
pack goes off into the
yeah.
sunset on the
So
good.
I only fill out one every year. That's
I
just
saw
my
that.
thing that I do. I only fill out one. I have UConn and Gonzaga in the national championship.
Gotcha. George,
So
thank you for coming on the show. And it was great getting the chance to talk to you and look back at your high school and your coaching career. And where can people follow your podcast?
yeah, so we're on all listening platforms, Twitter, and you can find us on all social media as well. But we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, literally anywhere you find your listening platforms, you can find us. So, yeah,
Same. And thank you guys all for tuning in. You guys can make sure to follow me at Twitter at tbugs2010. I post a lot of high school sports stuff there. So thank you. And you can follow Tapping with Tony on wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you all for tuning in. See you guys next time.
thank you, Tony.